wake up today to be average. So why are we living that way? I truly do believe that God wants us to be wealthy. God desires for us to live our best. You can have everything that you want in this life. You can have the money, the family, the marriage, the business, the car, whatever it is that you want. You can have it. Wealth is your birthright. You deserve to be wealthy. These are the secrets of a money mogul, the keys to living an abundant life.
Hey moguls, welcome to another episode of the Secrets of a Money Mogul podcast. I'm your host, Jalesa, and I'm on a mission to help 1 million women reach financial freedom. And I just want to thank you for downloading this podcast and listening today. Be sure to do me a favor and go over to iTunes and rate and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. iTunes, soon it'll be on YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, all the podcast mediums. I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to allow me to pour into your life. So today's podcast is going to be a reflection because I had the pleasure of celebrating another birthday this year. Yay, I'm another year older, and I'm just I think your birthday is a really good time to kind of just reflect. And even though I just did a lot of reflecting around the new year, because my birthday is in January and it is still January, I think that it's still best that I reflect on my birthday and just kind of make sure that I'm on the right track and the right path. And I have a couple of lessons that I've learned over the last 31 years, y'all. I turned 31 this year. Over the last 31 years that I would love to share with you all, because I think that our life experiences teach us different things. Like none of us are the same. We're not the same as the person next to us. And even if we have siblings that grew up in similar situations, the way that we perceived those situations is all different. And the lessons are all different. And I think that it's so necessary that we talk about those things because we learn from each other. Like I've learned a lot from my friends that have grew up completely different from me. You know, I've learned a lot from my friends that have grown up with wealth. You know, I've learned a lot from my friends that have grown up middle class, because me growing up in a single family household and watching my mom struggle with money, like it's a completely different perspective. The way that I view money, the way that I view work, the way that I view different things is just different. And I think that talking with other people, learning from other people, and then becoming an adult and experiencing my own money stories, my own money woes, my own career things, should I say, has definitely changed my perspective. So we're just going to have a little bit of a reflection and just a little chat today because I think it's necessary. So first off, I want to say happy birthday to anybody that has a birthday this month. Happy birthday to you all. And I'm so fortunate, like I said, to live another year. A lot of people do not know this about me because I don't necessarily always talk about this, but this birthday, for some reason, this really came up for me. I was thinking a lot about my dad and my father. And he passed away at a pretty young age. And I know that his 31st birthday was the last birthday that he ever saw. So I was going through some things when I was thinking about that and having that reflection that growing older and growing wiser is a luxury that's not given to everybody. So I don't take it lightly that God allowed me to live another year. And one thing that brought up this reflection is, I'm going to tell this story because I don't think I've told this publicly in a little while, but in about 3 years ago, I was in a house fire in January with my closest friends. We were in New Orleans. We were having a good time, and we were actually celebrating my bachelorette party. And we for whatever reason, we were kind of tired that night. So we went to sleep a little bit early. We turned in a little bit early because that was our last night in New Orleans. And the Airbnb that we had rented caught on fire while we were sleeping, and they had fire detectors, but none of them went off. One of my closest friends, she said that God like woke her up out of her sleep, and she saw the fire coming through the ceiling. So she was the one who kind of like ran through the house and woke everyone up and got everyone out of the house in a timely manner. And then, of course, I called 911, and it was a townhouse. So there were people in the unit next to us, which the owner also owned. And we, knocked on the door, woke them up, pulled them out of the house because the fire at that point had really begun to spread. And I remember talking to the firefighters like after the incident had taken place, and them saying that we got out like just in time, because I don't know a lot about fires, but I guess like once it starts breaking through the wall, it gets more oxygen, so it spreads more quickly. And we were kind of just like right at that point when we were all like getting out of the house. So I don't take it lightly that I'm here to see another day, because y'all, there's so many times the devil has tried to take me out, and I know that God has a calling on my life. I know that he's placed me here to impact other people, not just my own life. So I think that was one of the turning points, and one of the points where I was like, okay, God, I hear you. Like, I'm going to live for you. I'm going to live out this mission. I'm going to do what I'm called to do, because clearly to me, there's a reason the devil wants to take me out early. And so, yes, I just have been doing a lot of reflection on these things. And I've come to these 7 things that we're going to talk about today. And yeah, let's just get into these 7 things. So the first thing that I want to talk about that I've learned over the last 31 years is that failure is not final. Failure is not final. And another thing failure is not optional. I've realized that there's no reason to fear failure, because the story doesn't end at the failure. Only if you allow it to. If you failed in school, you can retake that class. If you failed at a job, you can go get another job and excel at it. If you failed in business, you can start another business. It's crazy how many people I meet with successful businesses, and I come to find out this is like their 5th or 6th or 7th or even 8th. Some people don't even know how many businesses they've had. Like they stop counting. They've stopped counting because they have so many businesses. Even myself, like when people look at this business, and we've talked about being an overnight success in last week's episode. If y'all have not listened to that, definitely go check that out. But even looking at my business right now, like this is like my fifth or 6th business. Like I've done so many things, trying to navigate my path and find my purpose and find ways to generate income for my family and build generational wealth. Like I've done so many different things, and I do feel like this here is my final calling. I don't think I'll be switching gears again. But if I do, that's okay, because guess what? Failure is not final. Failure is only final if you allow it to be. It's only the end if you choose to give up and you choose to quit. Failure is just a stepping stone towards your next goal, towards your next destination. This business failed. When I first started it, I thought it was going to be an overnight success. I thought it was going to be popping. I was going to put out one product. 50 million people were going to buy it. That's just what I thought. I thought when God places a calling on your life, it's immediately blessed. And guess what? That does not happen often. The people that have these overnight success stories that you see have put in years and years and years of foundational work that you do not see, that's behind the scenes. So I think it's very necessary for us to realize that our failure is not final. So if you failed at something, even we're still kind of in New Year's resolution time. I mean, it's getting ready to be February, but most people have already quit on their New Year's resolution because they failed. Because they failed to go to the gym, I don't know, 2 days, the last 3 weeks, whatever it is, they failed to do that. So they've just quit on their New Year's resolution. But guess what? That failure does not have to be final, because tomorrow you can decide that you want to pick up your workout routine again and you can hit the gym. And by summertime, you can be completely snatched. Completely. Like you can lose a good amount of weight between now and the summer if that's your goal. You can get very toned between now and the summer if that's your goal. So don't give up. Failure is not final at all. The second thing that I've learned in these wonderful years of life is that God's plan is bigger than mine. One of my closest friends and we both have the same word for the year, which is kind of crazy because we prayed separately and we talk about our goals at the beginning of the year. She's my accountability partner. She's the person that I call when I'm having a hard time or a bad day. We have that person that we lean on, that real close friend, and she's that for me. And it's funny that God gave us the same word for the year, but in different contexts. And our word for the year is surrender, because I really do believe that we can create the life that we love. Like that's a new hot saying: create the life that you love. Create the life that you love. We can create the life that we love in God's plan, right? Because there are things that God has done in my life that I could not have thought of. I could not have planned. I could not have dreamed. God's plan is so much bigger than our plan. And when we surrender our lives to Him, when we surrender our businesses to Him, when we begin to surrender in general and just say, listen, I want this or something better. I want this or something better. And we begin to pray that prayer. Let me tell you, God begins to show out, completely show out, because there are trips that God wants you to take that you don't even know that place exists yet. So you can't plan it. You can't craft it. You can't manifest it. You only get there by surrendering and allowing God or someone bigger than you to bring that into your life. And it's crazy because I speak with successful women and successful entrepreneurs from all over the world, really, because I'm huge on conferences and making lasting connections. But I do tend to build relationships with a lot of women who are entrepreneurs. And it's funny because now that I've been doing this for quite a few years, it's funny to see how far people have come with their business and to see how successful their businesses have grown and to see who they're sharing stages with and where they're traveling to. And, their books are on the bestsellers list and all these amazing and fantastic things. And when you talk to them, like some of them are like, I cannot believe this is my life because I never would have imagined this for myself. Like I asked God to bless my business. I asked God to make me successful. But I never would have imagined this, right? I never would have imagined this level of success. And I think it's necessary that we recognize that God's plan is bigger than ours. We will limit ourselves. We will put limits on ourselves. But His plan is far greater than anything that we can imagine. And reflecting on these last couple of years, I'm recognizing that God wants more for me than I want for me. And so the moment that I allow myself to actually surrender to His plan is the moment I know He's going to absolutely blow my mind. So I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but I'm encouraging you to go ahead and learn how to surrender to God's plan, because it's so necessary. So my third lesson that I've learned in the last 31 years is don't waste time putting on a show. Y'all, that is a lesson that I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the age of social media. Maybe it's like, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't even know if it's really the age of social media, because I think that this happened before. It's just probably elevated with social media. But I think that everyone puts on a show that they live this perfect life. And every time you're like, oh, hey, girl, how are you doing? It's like, oh, fine. You know, the kids are getting big. Oh, the job is great. Oh, yes, the husband is great. Everything's so fabulous. And it's like, I'm not telling you, like, when people ask you how you are, you just start telling all your problems, like, oh, girl, I'm not telling you to do that, but it's like people live this fake life. Like this, I can't tell you how many scenarios I've watched play out on social media or even just in public, and then come to find out, speaking with that person in private, that it was a complete show. Like, none of that is actually valid or true, or you just don't know the behind the scenes, right? I feel like everybody's living this big production to make life look perfect. And I just recognize that I don't want to do that. I don't want to put on a show. If you follow me on Instagram, on my personal page, you'll see that I posted like a cute picture of me holding a cupcake. And in the caption, I said, don't be fooled by pretty pictures that make you think that people's lives are perfect. Like, do not be fooled. It is not the truth. And that's what sucks about the comparison game with social media, is that we're comparing ourselves to a show, to a production, to something that's not even real, not even valid, not even true. And it's like, here we are feeling bad that we're not doing XYZ, like, I don't know why we're not doing XYZ like Oprah or Lisa Nichols or whoever is our idol person, or whoever our brand new social media influencer that we love is. You know, we're here feeling bad, feeling shameful that our lives aren't so put together like Perfect Patty, and Perfect Patty does not exist. Like, it is a show. It is a production. There's lights, there's cameras, there's Lightroom. You know, I can go out today and do a 20 outfit photo shoot, and you'll think I live my life like that, like dressed to the T all the time with my face beat, and it's not true. So I've just decided I don't want to waste time putting on a show. I think that I'm learning this ideal of being transparent. And I think that that's why I love this podcast medium so much. I do plan on doing some YouTube videos too, because I think video is just, you can see me and it's just a little bit different. But I love this podcast medium because it allows me to be vulnerable with you guys and to be real with you guys, because I don't want to put on a show. I don't want to act like everything is perfect, because it's not. I think I'm pretty open about my struggles. I'm pretty open about the things that I'm going through, because I know that there are other women going through it too, and I want to help them reach the breakthrough that is necessary. So don't waste time putting on a show. Being true and being authentic is just better. And I know that that's like kind of the new thing. Everybody wants to be authenticity, like, but to me, in the beginning especially, I found it hard to kind of let people in, like to be authentic and let people in, because it was like that ideal, like, what if they don't like me? You know, I still feel like some days I'm that child on the playground, like trying to gain approval from the other children, so that I can be liked and have friends. And, you know, it's necessary for me to not allow that to stop me from being my true self, to not allow that to make me want to put on a show for everybody. So I think that it's very necessary that I no longer do that. Okay, so the fourth lesson that I've learned over the last couple of years, especially over the last couple of years, y'all, this is something that I have been working on in therapy, especially my therapist has really been working with me on this, and this is establish boundaries early. Establish boundaries early. I think that this is just so necessary for your own personal self-care, but especially for your financial goals. Like, you have to establish boundaries with the people around you. And I think for so long, I went without boundaries that when I started putting boundaries in place, it was really hard for maybe it was my perception, but it was really hard for people to accept that. Even like there's a boundary that I've been putting in place with my mom. And I think maybe because I haven't had boundaries with her for so long, it is so hard for her to kind of like respect the boundary. So I have to keep coming back and being like, look, this is my boundary. Like, this is the line that I've put in the sand. You do not cross it. And even there are times that I've allowed her to continue to cross it and I haven't corrected the issue and I'm only feeding into the problem. So I think that it's very necessary that we set boundaries with our friends. We set boundaries with our partners and our husbands and the people that we're dating, that we set boundaries with our family, especially because if we do not, people will run all over us. And people will disrespect us all the time. And a lot of times when I talk to people about business and about finance and really about like their goals, a lot of people have a boundary issue. A lot of people don't know how to say no to their friends when they have financial goals or things that they want to accomplish. They don't know how to say no to their families when their family needs to borrow money or there's something tragic or there's something like there's always an emergency or something happening. And I'm not telling you to like leave your family on the side of the road, because that was kind of my thing. I was like, I want to be there for the people that I love, but at the same time, you cannot give from an empty cup. And if your cup is empty, if you haven't reached the financial goals that you need necessarily, or you need to, you cannot pour into someone else's cup. Like it's a problematic that most of us have holes in the bottom of our cup. So we're already trying to work on filling our cup to full, and it's hard to keep our own cup full, but then we're just like dumping into other people, investing so much into other people, into other people's relationships, giving money to other people when we really shouldn't be. And it's hard to set those boundaries. Maybe it's just hard for me. Maybe it was easy for all of you guys. And for those of you who it's easy for, maybe you need to slide in my DMs and give me the tea on how to do that. But for me, it was really hard for me to set boundaries. It was really hard for me to tell people, no, this is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing. And sticking with that. Because even if I would establish the boundary, for whatever reason, when I decided to set boundaries, I really feel like people tried to test me, like to see if the boundary was really real. Like, is she really real about this new boundary that she set, or is she just playing? And it was like, okay, let me just see how far I can cross this boundary. And it's funny, when you start establishing boundaries, like you really start seeing people for who they are. And some people are very selfish, and you don't even realize how many selfish people are around you. Because if you're like me, like I have such a servant heart. So I'm such a giver, and I'm like, give to the point where there are times that I attract people who unfortunately are leeches. Yes, y'all, leeches. And all they do is take, take, take. And I look up and I look around and I start establishing some boundaries. And I realize people are really selfish. People really only care about themselves. People really only care about what you can do for them. And I think that when God began to reveal that to me, he began to help me to set boundaries that take care of me and protect me and my own mental health and my own well-being, but also protect my family. And then those people begin to be removed from my life, y'all. It was like amazing. And I begin to make connections with other people who are not leeches, who are not just trying to take, who we pour into each other. We give to each other. We are there for each other. We build a foundational relationship, because let me tell you, if you have a leech in your life that is like just sucking you dry, who's always taking from you, who is never giving to the relationship, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And you wonder why you have no energy to pour into your business. You wonder why you have no energy to get the things done necessary to propel you to the next level. You wonder why you don't have that energy, and it's because you have leeches around you. And I'm going to give you guys a resource. There's a book that the friend I was talking about earlier recommended to me, and it's called The Energy Bus. And it talks about these things called energy vampires, like people who just kind of like suck up all your energy, y'all. You might have a couple of them in your life. And it might be time for you to establish some very clear-cut boundaries and establish those boundaries early and stick to them. Stick to them. So I'm going to give you guys that resource, and then also the book Boundaries. That book is amazing. That's one of those books that if it wasn't so long, I would read it every month because it's one of those books that I forget information that's in there, and I need to remind myself. I do have it on audio now. So now that I've actually read the book, I have it on audio, and sometimes I just listen to it, but it's just one of those books that's necessary for you to listen to. And it's necessary for you to set boundaries, and set boundaries very early. So let me get to point number 5. Which point number 5 is one of my favorite, and that's don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle for mediocre. I've already told you guys that God's plan is bigger than any plan that you can ever think about, ever create, ever paint, ever put on your vision board. God's plan is bigger than that, right? So don't settle for mediocrity. Don't settle for the same thing every day, the same mundane things every day, the same mundane things every week, every month, every year. Don't settle for that. Allow yourself to want, to dream, to wish, to believe for something bigger. And I think that has been one of the hardest things for me, is releasing the limits. Releasing the limits from my own limits that I've placed on my life, that God didn't give me, that I placed on my life. I've placed these limits. And I want to tell a story that I always tell. This story, it's one of my favorite stories. And I don't know where I heard this story, maybe a seminar or something, but y'all know I am from Texas. I live in Texas, and in Texas they eat frogs. So you'll go to a restaurant and there'll be frog legs on the menu sometimes. And I don't particularly eat frog legs. It's not necessarily my thing. But I learned this story about how to boil a frog. So when you boil a frog, you cannot just put the frog in the hot water, apparently. The frog will just jump out, right? The frog has legs. The frog is used to being in water. The frog jumps out. Well, I mean, I don't know if they cook live frogs, but if you were going to cook a live frog, you could not do that. So typically what is done, or what I hear is done, because I don't cook frogs, if you're going to cook a live frog, is that you get the water nice and lukewarm. You get it very nice and comfortable, and you put the frog in the water. And the frog is swimming around the water, and the water is nice and lukewarm. And then you turn up the heat, right? You put the water on the burner, you turn up the heat. And slowly but surely the water is getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. But the frog is still like thinking that it's just lukewarm. So it's just, swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming. And before you know it, the water is boiling hot and the frog cannot get out. And I say that story just to say that there are some of us who got placed in lukewarm water. And it's killing us. It's killing us to be lukewarm, to be mediocre, because we think that this lukewarm water is where we're supposed to be, because when we got in it, it felt good and it was comfortable and we were swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming around, and the heat has been turned up. There's jobs, there's situations that you are in that were lukewarm, but now the heat is up and it's killing you. And it will kill you. It will kill your dreams. It'll kill your destiny. It'll kill everything that you're working towards if you do not recognize it and get out. Get out of the lukewarm water, because it might not be lukewarm anymore. It's hot. It's very hot. And there are situations in my life, there are things that I've gone through where I've recognized that after the fact, when I got in, it was very comfortable. It was very lukewarm. It was very, take a nice little swim. But somewhere, somehow, somebody turned on the burner and I didn't realize it. And I just kept on swimming. And it kept, sometimes you notice like it's getting a little hot. It's getting a little hotter. I don't know if you guys ever been in the sauna or the steam room. Like sometimes when you first turn it on, it's not really that hot, and then you sit in the steam room and then all of a sudden it starts getting real hot. You start sweating and it's like, oh yeah, it's hot. But you don't even recognize how hot it is until you walk outside, and then you recognize that outside the room it's much cooler than inside of the room. And I don't necessarily know what I'm trying to say, but you guys get my point, right? Don't get stuck in the lukewarm water. Do not get stuck there. Don't settle for mediocre. Allow yourself to dream bigger. Allow yourself to believe bigger. Allow yourself to take actions towards that. That's it. So I got 2 more points, y'all. Stick with me. The sixth lesson that I've learned is that distractions are kryptonite. Distractions are kryptonite. I don't know if I'm the only easily distracted person out there, but I am definitely, one of my mentors, Brian Tracy, he talks about a dog in a summer field. And he's like, the dog in the summer field sees a rabbit and he takes off after the rabbit, and he's running after the rabbit, and then he sees another rabbit and then he takes off after that rabbit, and then he's running after that rabbit, and all of a sudden pops up another rabbit and he takes off after that rabbit. And it's like he's running and he's running and he's running and he's running after this rabbit and that rabbit and this rabbit and that rabbit and this rabbit and that rabbit. And before you know it, the dog is panting because he's exhausted from chasing all these rabbits, and he hasn't caught any rabbits. He hasn't caught not one, because he keeps getting distracted and chasing that rabbit and this rabbit and that get rich quick ideal. And maybe I'm going to do Forex, and maybe I'm going to do this, and maybe I'm going to do that. And no, maybe I'm going to be a coach. Maybe I'm going to do health and fitness and this and this and that. Hey, let me tell you. And that's how most people are with their lives. That's how most people are with their lives. It's like, they chase all these different rabbits, and then they get to 40, 50 years old and they don't have, what's the saying? They don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And that's where a lot of us are, right? That's where a lot of us are. Like, we're just chasing rabbits. We're not catching any rabbit because we can't stay focused on the one rabbit long enough to actually catch it. And when it comes to your financial journey, especially, focus is necessary. You have to focus on the one rabbit. You have to catch the one rabbit. You have to complete the journey with the one rabbit. Do not get distracted. it's funny because it's like, well, what method should I use to pay down debt? Should I use the snowball method or the avalanche method or all these different methods? I heard about this person's method and that person's method. And honestly, they all work. All of them work. If you stick to it long enough, though. But if you're like, oh, I need to do this method, and then you do this method a little bit, and then you're like, oh, no, let me go do this method. And then you go do this method a little bit, and then you're like, oh, neither one of these is working. Just forget it. Let me go do something else. And then you create your own method, and it's like, either one of them probably would have worked if you stuck to it long enough to complete the journey. If you stuck to it long enough to catch the rabbit. So free yourself from distractions. This is something I'm working on because I get distracted, especially when it comes to programs. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to put out this program. Ooh, I want to teach about this. Ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, I want to do that. Ooh, I want to do the prayer challenge. And I love the prayer challenge and I love this. And I get distracted. I'm not exempt from that. Like, these are my life lessons. So everything that I'm talking to you about is something that I've been through, something that I've gone through, something that I'm working on. Not being distracted. Like, what would happen if you chose one product and perfected it instead of having 50 million products? What would happen? I just want you to ask yourself, what would happen if you focused on one business? Focused on making one business a 7-figure business. Focus on making one business more profitable than you could ever imagine, rather than having 50 million business. What would happen? Maybe that's a reflection question for tonight. Maybe you journal about that tonight. And if you do, slide in my DMs. Tell me what happened. I want to hear about these journal entries. I want to hear about your revelations. I want to hear about the transformation that's really happening in your life. So slide in my DMs, slide in my email inbox. Tell me what's going on, because I really want to hear about the clarity that you guys will get from freeing yourself of this kryptonite called distractions. Okay, and then I have one more point, and then I'm gonna let you guys go because y'all know I can talk for a little while, and I like to keep the podcast short. I don't know why I like to keep the podcast about 30 minutes. So just a quick, if you're driving to work, you can listen to it on your drive to work. They say most people's commute is about 30 minutes, so it kind of falls in line with that. But my last point, my last lesson that I've learned is bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. And I bet, I seen a quote the other day. It was like, I bet on myself and I hit the jackpot. And it's true, because my life, and I've talked about this before, but my life did not change until I changed, until I controlled the things that I could control and let go of the things that I couldn't control. I can't control other people. I can't control what they do. All I can do is set boundaries for myself and control my actions. And the truth of it is that no one's coming to save you. No government, nobody, right? It is you and God in this race. And the only person that you can count on outside of God is yourself. The only person that you can bet on is yourself. Bet on yourself. You will win every time. You will win every time when you believe in yourself, when you believe in your abilities, when you follow through with the things that you know is necessary, that you need to do. Like, every time I'm going to bet on myself. Like, I can't put my hope, I can't put my faith in other people. I cannot idolize other people. I cannot put my faith in other experts and other things. Like, not to say that you cannot get advice or guidance or coaching, because I'm a firm believer of coaching. Like, I've had amazing coaches over the years, but yes, it's necessary to bet on yourself. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save me. No one's going to come run my business for me. No one's going to show up every week on this podcast for y'all like I show up on my podcast. Now, they might show up on their own podcast, which, hey, more power to you. Tell me how it's going. I love listening to other podcasts. But yeah, nobody's going to show up for you like you. So bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. And I think that's all that I have for you guys today. I just want to thank you for listening to my story, listening to my lessons for the last few years. And I just want to thank you for being a subscriber, and please rate, subscribe on iTunes. I really appreciate it. It helps other people find out about the podcast. And I will be releasing something really soon for you guys. Remember the dog in the summer field story I was telling you guys? I'm focusing on one product. One product right now that is about to launch, and I'm excited to bring that to y'all. I may be calling for some beta testers. We'll see how that works out. I'm still ironing out the details, but be on the lookout for some new things dropping. And I want to thank you for listening. I will see you guys or talk to you guys next week. Thank you.